Also, those people who are comfortable to turn their cameras on. I don't think either of us has a lot of presentations or things like that to share, no?
Yeah.
So if you guys are comfortable here, please turn your cameras on, even if it's early morning, late evening. Rajai ke andar ho to bhi no problem. It'll be nice to put faces to.
You are
names.
completely inside Rajai, then it may be a little dark inside. So थोड़ा बाहर आ गए.
There we go.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like we are talking to people. Great. So before we get started, I would ask you to, and I'm going to share my screen just to show you the questions. Yeah. So basically, so these are a few things we would like to hear from you before we get started. So your name, you can just share a little bit about your stage of your preparation, target score, if you want to share, and your daily or weekly targets that you set for yourself, and how have your targets helped you? So the last question is the most important, but essentially the first four questions are a little background for that. First question is, in any case, we would like to know, even though your Gmail account says. So yeah, anybody would like to start? We would just need 2-3 volunteers to get started. Yes, Ria. One second. Yeah, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Ria and welcome. So in terms of the stage of the GMAT prep, I already gave my GMAT last month. I scored a 530, which was terrible. Anyway, my target score is somewhere around 700 to 720 because I am looking at Indian universities. In terms of what are my daily and weekly targets, so every day, so now that I've given my GMAT, I know what are the things that I need to work on because I also got my ESR and everything. One is that I pick a focus area for every week. So for example, my critical reasoning is very less. So I will pick one of those topics and I'll do it for 1 week. Along with that, I'll revise something in quant or I'll pick that up. In terms of how have my targets helped me, so this is where I struggle because I'm not able to quantify in terms of how do my targets help me, because usually when I look at how I set my targets, I only look at this is the amount of material that I want to complete in a week, and I don't assign like a value that, you know, this is where it should get me. Which is why I also wanted to come here and learn that how should I be placing those targets, because I usually think that this is the content that I need to cover within the week.
So you currently stand at 530 and your target is 710, 720.
Yeah.
And you set your targets weekly in terms of how much content you want to cover in that week. And you're not sure how is that helping you?
Agreed. Yeah. Because I just do the content, but I don't know how to like actually think ki, haan, theek hai, like this is what I should be doing, and this is where what will land me to a 700. Something of that sort.
Good. Thank you so much.
I don't mind going next if it's okay with everybody.
Yeah, go ahead, Priya.
Okay, so I'm Riya Kukreja. I'm going to be taking my 4th attempt, aiming at my 4th attempt in Jan, if I clear my goals. But my target is around 700, 690, 700. And I do keep targets like for 3-4 days at a stretch. Like currently I'm doing quant, and I've picked up, I finished number properties, and now I'm at word problems. So I'm picking topic wise, and I'm trying to finish those in like 2 days, 3 days. And if it takes more time, since there are so many topics in word problems, so I pick 3-4 days and I see where I stand. But some days I'm successful, some days I'm not. And there are times when I'm not performing well in the question, so it kind of delays my targets. But I'm not going crazy about it, because given that it's going to be my 4th attempt, I'm taking it easy and seeing where my issues are. My major problem areas are, like, I've identified those, but I still need some guidance on if I have a hard deadline, should I stick to the deadline or should I just move ahead with my current preparation, or should I be very serious and now make smaller goals? I'm not clear with how to go ahead with that.
Hmm. Okay, I see. Anyway, your targets have helped you.
Yes, they have. But not every week I'm fulfilling my targets. Not every time I'm reaching my goals. Like timeline gets like थोड़ी आगे हो जाती है timeline. अगर मैंने एक date तक सोचा है that I have to finish word problems till 10th, then it's now moved to I think 15th, like that.
I see. ठीक है. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll just mention, even if your camera is not on, still feel free to speak. Huh? It's not that only those of you who have your cams on can turn on the mic also.
Yeah. Anybody wants to speak, you can just raise your hand and I'll give you the option to unmute yourself. Yeah, Ayush. 1 second, let's go one by one. So Ayush raised his hand.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, Ayush.
Yeah. So I am Ayush. Like I am currently doing a job in Bangalore, and this is like my planning phase going on. I have yet to start preparing for the GMAT, and I thought it is going to be something like that. So I thought I am in the. So I request you to just touch on those areas as well. So Abhi, I am starting my preparation. So what sort of study material should I cover? And what's which GMAT should I aim for, the older one or the focused edition? So it will be very helpful for me.
So that is, so we can talk about it at the end of the webinar. So of course, the webinar is not about that, but we can talk about it at the end.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So Mahima wanted to speak. Let me just.
Hi everyone, I am Mahima. I have been working with Zomato for the past 6 years and I've just started my prep like 2 months back. I am targeting a score around 700, not a hard score, like I'm not too adamant on it. But I would like to be done with my GMAT in the first half of January maximum. My daily and weekly targets have sort of been around mostly improving my efficiency. Like earlier, I was focusing on improving my accuracy. Now I am trying to do that within a certain time frame. And as much as I try to cover like at least little bit of RC, little bit of quant and CR, I don't think it has helped me a lot. Though my mock test scores have seen a little improvement, but I can't really pinpoint that sticking to the hard, like I'm just trying to be disciplined about it. If being disciplined is enough, or is it helping me, or am I going in the right direction or not? And this is going to be my first attempt. So that.
Okay. Thank you. Anish, should we take one more or?
Yeah, let's take one more.
Shubhankar?
Hi CJ, hi Anish. I don't know if you remember me or not, but it's a happy place. I'm back. I'm happy to be back as well. I left my preparations in the month of March. I've given one attempt to GMAT. I scored a 510. Came down shattering. I had deadlines. So took some time off. More than some time, I guess, more than 6 months. Now I'm again planning back to get started with this one. In 6 months, a lot has changed with GMAT. For sure, with back this time, without any deadlines for sure. So yeah, looking forward to it now.
I see. Thank you, Shubhankar.
Yeah, thank you.
May I ask you, Shubhankar, why without a deadline this time? Chiranjeev, I think Sorry.
Did not help me for 2 years, for
Mhm.
sure. I
Don't-
guess I work without, I mean, being in that pressure environment. I feel that's a better way to look at it.
So when
I was taking it as a do or die thing, so it did matter to me then that I still want to do it. I'm happy that I'm still stuck to the idea that I want to get back at it. So yeah, deadlines are something I'm not looking forward to this time. That's one learning that I have taken from my last, prep time that I had given in. So yeah,
last
that's
time you
about
had
it.
deadlines?
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
Every 3 months.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And it's been over 2 years now, huh? On and off, but over 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Did not work for me for sure.
So earlier it was do or die. Now it's only do or die. So yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you all of you for participating and sharing this information with us. That's pretty helpful. I think, especially Shubhankar, I think Anish is going to use. We were in any case planning to use this kind of template. So yeah, Anish, you want to start? Should I stop sharing the screen?
I don't have much to share initially, yeah. So, I mean, bunch of questions that we'll discuss, right? Ki bhai, why we set targets, what's the purpose of setting targets, how do they help you, do they even help you, what's the objective behind them? So the starting point was, do you even have targets? It seems most of us do, right? And it's true for me also, right? It's not like when I start doing something, I don't think of timelines, I don't think of where I want to reach. So I think it's more a human issue than a GMAT specific issue, but human issue, therefore it comes into GMAT also, right? So is it fair to understand that pretty much everyone, when you're starting off with your GMAT prep, one of the things you're trying to figure out in addition to courses and everything is how long should it take and what score I should reach? Is that fair? Those who have cameras on can just nod or shake. No? So then the question becomes, how do you figure those things out? Right? How do you figure out, for example, that GMAT should take me 3 months and I should reach 720? So I guess in the interest of time, again, I'll share what many students have told me in the past. And if you have some different reasons, you can tell me. So the score typically is based on B school medians, B school averages, right? I'd like to be in the upper half. So I'd like to score at least slightly better than the median. Or maybe some consultants have told me this, my friend scored this much, got this admission. My friend did not get admission, based on those things. Timeline, often again, friends, colleagues, Google searches, GMAT club, things like that. So is that fair? Typically, that's how people figure out, you figured out for yourself how long it will probably take you and how much score you should target. Yeah. So, but these are all external factors, no? Right? B school averages, medians has got nothing to do with where you are. Your friend, sure, maybe even if it's a friend from a similar education background and everything, but still not you. And similarly, timelines, right? So pehli baat to scores, we are figuring out how based on what other people are saying, what we have read about. Okay, my friend got this much, that guy got this much, this school asks for this much score. All that's fine. But how did you figure out it's a realistic target for you? Not just that, it's a realistic target for you in that limited timeline. That's where the issue comes in. So I'll ask you this question now and tell me in chat. What are the factors? If let's say I'm starting my GMAT prep today, what are the factors that will impact how long it will take me? Just throw out words, whatever. What are those factors? No need to make complete sentences. Consistency, current score, current performance. So time commitment on an everyday basis. Right. So ek to ho gaya basically starting from today. How do I go about things, right? How many hours am I putting in? Am I consistent with those things? What content I'm using? But these are very surface level. Mental, physical health, indeed. So not just hours, think about it. Two people studying same number of hours won't get the same output from those few hours, right? So it's also about quality of hours. Different people have different learning speeds and all that. Content kya use kar rahe hain, how you're engaging with things. Overall, this is a category of things I can do starting from today, now onwards, right? As a couple of you mentioned, the way I see it, perhaps the biggest issue is what your starting level is. Everything else comes later, right? And when we think of this term GMAT beginner, often the assumption is that everyone is at the same level. That's a very big assumption. See, forget everything else. In school, we move from class 6 to class 7th. Is everyone at the same level? No. In 6th, first of all, everyone doesn't get the same marks at the end of the year. Everyone doesn't understand things in the same way at the same level in 7th class. We all pass and move on to the next class, most of us anyway, at a fixed timeline. But are we all getting the same amount of learning from that year every year? No. Right? So that's a very big assumption that GMAT beginner is a GMAT beginner and every GMAT beginner is at the same level. Right? I often take this analogy that if I have to, let's say, get 6-pack abs, how long will it take me? Okay, I look at, my friends took this long, this guy took this long, people say this long. Okay, and I'll be committed, I'll my diet, I'll focus on, I'll get my sleep in order and everything. But all that will come after what my starting level is. A person who's already very fit compared with a person who's unfit, I would expect that they'll take different times. Right? So that's one thing. How did you even figure out what your timeline is? How did you even figure out that it makes sense for you to reach from typically potentially an unknown level to your target level in that limited time frame? Right? There's no formula that can calculate this exactly. There's so many subjective things. But forget the subjectivity of it all. Like I said, anyway, perhaps the biggest assumption is, GMAT beginner is a GMAT beginner. So this is the first thing, right, that I often think about, right? Where are these targets even coming from? So the how is mainly external. But even if we start internalizing, chalo, theek hai, I'll take a mock test at the start of my prep. And let's say the difference between my mock test score and my target score is, let's say, 150 points. So even then, there's no formula, 10 points every 2 weeks, and therefore 150 points will take this long. No such thing, as those of you who've been preparing for a while would have already experienced that. Right? So there's so much subjectivity involved. So yeah, I'm not even sure how to get a good frame of reference in terms of how long, right? I think Chiranjeev also does that. Even I try to give estimates to students, by you're just starting off, you're at this level. Itna to maan ke chalo, right? Probably this long it'll take you, and it could be 6 months, 1 year, or even longer, depending on the student. Right? But another factor I just mentioned, 6 months. For 2 people, 6 months won't be equal. Are you preparing full time? Are you preparing at the night after a long day of work every day when you're already very tired and you're not really getting a lot out of what you're doing? Or is it that you're just working or studying on Saturdays and Sundays and not doing anything rest of the week? Right? So much subjectivity. So initially, right now, it might be, then what do we even do? Right? Hopefully we'll address that to some extent, but at least this acceptance that, first of all, anyway, most of my targets are coming through external sources. And even if I try to do things on my own, there's not a clear formula to figure out, my score, my target score, therefore X weeks. Right? There's no formula that can give us that answer.
So can I add something here?
Yeah.
So in this case also, so when there is no, so first is just acceptance that we don't know, right? So now we don't know that could lead to so naturally people ask, okay, then how much time? Can you give us some tentative idea? So generally the tendency we have is to give a slightly higher idea. So for example, instead of thinking in terms of 4-6 months, we talk in terms of 1 year, 1.5 years. So what's the benefit of, let's say, having a more aggressive target of, let's say, you don't know anything, but you can't go without a timeline. And that's an alternative I think we are going to talk about in any case. So first is that we don't know what sort of, in how much time we can achieve it, but can we keep it open? And what about keeping it open? So for example, I was talking to a student and he was like, sir, I can't keep it open and it's going to take my whole lifetime. I was like, no. If you keep it open, it's not going to take you a lifetime, right? It's going to take whatever it's supposed to take, right? But a lot of us are not very comfortable of keeping it open. We don't know. 1 saal lag jaye, 2 saal lag jaye, 6 mahine lag jaye, 8 mahine lag jaye. We don't have an idea. Of course, it's not going to take us 10 years. But a lot of us are still not comfortable with keeping it open, even though we can talk about what about keeping it open also. But the thing is, then if we don't keep it open, should we set it like, let's say, quite aggressively? Let's say we say just 3 months we have, and then we push ourselves to that target, or we keep it very flexible, let's say 2 years, or we should keep it somewhere in the middle. Where should we keep it? So I think that's going to be the beginning of our discussion. Why should we even keep our targets? Is that what we want to take up first, Anish?
Okay, sure.
Or
Carry
do you have something else?
So actually, let me add one point to what you mentioned, that so it's so difficult to keep things open. And one fear is that if I don't put an upper limit, then it will go on forever.
Yeah.
Also, I think we feel that, oh, I need that pressure kind of, right? That deadline to push me, to motivate me. And without that deadline, I won't work. They say, I don't know if it's actually an Elon Musk quote or not, but I've seen this multiple times on LinkedIn. Chiranjeev knows about this. That if I give myself 3 days to clean the kitchen, it will take me 3 days. If I give myself 3 hours, it will take me 3 hours. And I think that's perhaps the principle that many people apply to GMAT prep also. I'll put that limit, then I'll be able to manage. Otherwise, things will keep expanding to fit the time that I have. I ask one follow-up question here. I haven't met him, but if I meet him and if it's actually Elon Musk's quote, I'd ask him, why not 3 minutes then? From three days, if you put a 3 hours limit, you can finish in 3 hours. Why not 3 minutes? Why stop at 3 hours? Because for kitchen, perhaps that guy, whoever said that, has already worked out whatever work needs to be done in the kitchen can be managed within 3 hours. That he already knows. Then he's putting the limit of 3 hours. Right? He's not just out of nowhere inventing a time frame. Ki, chalo, I'll put this limit and work with that limit. Right? He perhaps has done that in the past, or he can add up, oh, I have to clean the utensils, I have to do this, I have to do these 3 things. That one I anticipate will take 30 minutes plus 45 plus this plus that. So overall 3 hours. Right? Otherwise, we can keep shrinking it. So, I think one is that even that the whole never ending thing, that's one issue. And the other is, if I don't have that, then how will I get the most out of today? I need that push. So push hi karna hai, to take a date for tomorrow, yaar. Push yourselves. Puri raat jage raho, kar lo. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. That's it, Chiranjeev. Carry on, please.
So yeah, if we can possibly start with talking a little about why do we even have targets? So one is, of course, we have already discussed to push ourselves, that without targets, we'll probably not work. Any other reason you have? Anybody else can you can type in the chat also. If you want to share, you can raise your hand. I'll ask you to unmute. Any other reason for keeping targets? Why do you keep targets? So let's say both in terms of timeline as well as the target GMAT score.
Hi, this might sound incredibly stupid, but I spend a lot of time on Reddit reading that, you should have X number of work experience before you apply to this college, and then it becomes an external factor in terms of the timeline that I'm looking at, that, oh, if I have this much work X, then I need to apply by next year to make sure that I have a good shot. So I think a lot of external factors, and in terms of what you read, because there's a lot of information outside, and then you kind of just internalize all of it and be like, हाँ अब ये अच्छा है तो ऐसे ही follow करना है. I know this is incredibly stupid, but I do that. So
Nee, I didn't get that. So why do you keep targets? Okay.
oh, so I was saying that there's a lot of information that's available online, right? That if you want to apply to, let's say, ISB, then this is the type of, work experience that you should have. Let's take like 3 years. And I'm like at 2.5 years of work ex. Then I think of, oh, if I have to apply by the time that I have 3 years of work ex, then I need to start right now to ensure that I have a better chance. So that just becomes like an external factor that keeps pushing you to do it. And just push yourself in those terms.
Got it.
A lot
Right.
of information available.
Yep. Got it. Thank you.
I think I keep targets because I keep on, for example, if I have a deadline in my mind, thought of deadline, let's say 2 months later, it helps me manifest the future, and that is my motivation to work harder today. That these are the 2 months that I need to put in more effort, and then that becomes my motivation in terms of manifesting. Oh, after that I'll be so relieved, then I'll actually be filling out the forms, doing my applications and other things, because this is like the first and the biggest step to
Hmm.
the journey.
I see. It's a way to motivate yourselves, and you sort of picturize that okay, after 2 months I'll be done. So let's just work for these 2 months. So it's a way to sort of give yourself
Yes,
motivation every day to work towards it.
correct.
Hmm. So yeah, so these are driven by admission round deadlines. So this is the deadline, and sort of as Ria was saying that, Ria, right? As Ria was saying that, okay, I have this much experience and this much is the ideal amount of experience. So essentially these are external driven. And sort of even if there is no external pressure, still people give themselves deadlines so that they can work towards it. Otherwise, they know they'll be procrastinating. So these are the benefits of having deadlines. Are there any downsides of having deadlines or targets?
I've set so many deadlines. I've been preparing for quite some time. In setting those deadlines, I think this is another guy who mentioned, right? He said 2 years, right? So I was like, I've spent more than 4 years, 4.5 years, not competing here with the timelines, but I've set deadlines, I've failed those deadlines, and then I've not been able to apply because I haven't got my desired score. So, to answer your question, sir, I think we miss out on small details. Biggest mistake. Miss out on clearing your errors, because if I'm not looking at my error log in a rush to reach to the deadline, I am missing out on the, for example, answering the questions in the right manner, because then I don't have clarity, right? I'm in a rush. My mind is in a rush. So
Right.
the main problem with setting deadlines is what I've felt over the years is I'm not doing justice to my preparation because there's always an underlying pressure.
Yeah. You compromise on the process, you compromise on
I have compromised. I have done that so many times in this period that I feel like I don't want to give myself a deadline now.
So the downside is that in order to sort of just meet that deadline, you end up sort of compromising on the process, and as a result, you're not able to meet the deadline or even do your
Yeah.
best.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, thank you. So do or die deadlines, it causes anxiety. We start being too harsh on ourselves and panic. So anxiety बढ़ जाती है. Uh, we become harsh on ourselves. So let's talk about anxiety and being harsh on yourself. So of course, this these are two impacts. So one is the kind of your quality of life experience, right? So the naturally having anxiety is not a good experience of life, or being harsh on ourselves, engaging in self-criticism. Oh, I set a target of achieving this much. I have not even half done. What kind of person I am? I don't deserve this and all that, whatever. So this is not a good experience of life. That is one aspect. The second is whatever time you spend doing all of this to yourself, you are hampering your GMAT preparation, right? If you are anxious, if you are engaging in self-criticism and going through all that negativity, are you being able to give your best to your GMAT preparation? No. So in this way also, it negatively impacts the process, whatever you end up doing, right? So one is simply that in order to meet the deadline, you start making compromises on the quality, which impacts your clarity, which impacts eventually your score, and you're not able to get your desired score. The second is these anxiety, self-criticism, and other things start, and which also impact your performance. So these are the downsides. Any other downside, Anish? Yeah, something in mind, or anybody else? Any other downsides of having deadlines or targets?
So I'll add two things. एक तो I think, and perhaps those of you who've been doing it for a while, that एक तो हो गया that within a preparation cycle, the timeline, the deadline is kind of adding that extra pressure and anxiety, and because of that negativity. Plus also, let's say you reach the end of that time period and you haven't reached your target score, then it again comes back. Arey bhai, you were supposed to be done with it in 3 months. It's already been 4 months, right? And then it in fact compounds that, oh man, how dumb are you? What's wrong with you, right? There must be something certainly wrong with you to not be able to do such a simple thing that my friends were able to do, my colleagues were able to do. So, right? I find, and those of you who have gone through multiple cycles, every time I think it kind of just becomes so much bigger than all this anxiety and negativity becomes so much bigger than last time.
So as so I think Darshak added to your point that restarting becomes difficult because you are too much into self-criticism.
Very correct, yeah. I find, right, that's one big reason why we procrastinate, right? That because we know that if I start and again if I fail, that this time it will just become almost unbearable, and so I don't even want to go there. I do have a question. So about the benefits that how I think Mahima mentioned about, it helps you manifest, and those of you who have, Mahima, how long have you been preparing for? Tell me in the chat only, or just hold up your fingers for a number of months. 3 months, 2 to 3 months. So far you've been able to meet your deadlines and they've been working for you. So I think, Chiranjeev, that was one thing that I thought about, that, okay, benefits and side effects. Are you really getting the benefits? I guess that's my question for everyone. Those of you who've been at it, okay, why we think that it'll help us in this way, it'll help us in this way. Have these targets really been helping you in those ways? Yeah, anyone would like to share what your experience has been in terms of the benefits with regards to targets? Often I find that they end up being more notional than real motivators and real drivers. At least that's my personal experience. So yeah, I mean, even the benefits maybe are just perceived benefits and not true benefits. Yeah, Chiranjeev.
Yeah, so even if, so yeah, one thing is whether there is actually any benefit of it. But let's say even if there is a benefit, let's say of having a target versus not having a target at all, and then you're just going about your preparation. So some people may think, oh, that is the worst case, definitely. But let's say even if having targets has a benefit, but there are downsides also. You know that. So overall, have you really weighed it for yourself? Whether targets are overall net beneficial for you or net harmful for you? So generally people don't do this. That they never really get into this pros and cons analysis of even having targets. They just believe targets necessarily have to be there. Bhagwan ne bola, Bhagwan ne nahi bola aisa. So you can decide not to have targets. But naturally targets have a purpose that people just need something to look forward to. Okay, this is the time frame that I have and all that. So that is one thing. Whether to have targets, given their pros and cons. So first thing is I would encourage you to evaluate for yourself whether they are actually helping you. And let's also little talk about this. What does it even mean to say whether targets are helping you? Or when I asked this question, have targets been helpful? So you started sharing, yeah. So for example, why do you set targets? Essentially, I have some motivation, right? Or then I can study, or sort of I can look forward to just competing in and all that. So targets, if you think about it, targets help you only to the extent they influence your daily activities, right? So for example, let's say you're studying for 3 hours and targets help you go to 4 hours a day. Targets are helpful. If you're studying for 3 hours and let's say I keep the productivity and everything same, okay? If you're studying for 3 hours and because of targets, you are able to study just 2 hours a day, then targets are harmful. If you're studying for 3 hours, you keep a target, you're still studying for 3 hours, targets are useless. So think about it. And this is something very not people don't understand, or people just don't think about. For example, I was doing this session with a just my first private tutoring session with a student who came to me at verbal 31. So at the end of the session, he realized that there are several mistakes he's making in RC and SC and all that. Then he says, so yeah, I'm looking for a verbal whatever. So he's overall looking for a 740, but he's like, I'm not in a hurry. I'm okay with scoring a 700 by December end so that I can apply in round 2. Okay. And I can then continue studying and then eventually we can hit a 740. So at the end of the session, he's like, okay, so what should be our target for this month end? I told him, you can keep it verbal 45 or verbal 35, whatever you want. He's like, what? So it's like, what kind of joke is being played on me? Verbal 45, verbal 35, anything you want. But my point is, how does it matter? If you keep a verbal 45, then what's going to happen to you? If you keep a verbal 35, then what's going to happen to you? ऐसा तो नहीं है कि दुनिया सुन लेगी, there is some air in the universe listening to you. Oh, finally CJ has set a target of V45. So now the thing is going to be in a different way. He set a target of just V35. Oh, then we'll work in a different way. Think about it. Does your achievement depend on your target score? If I keep a target score of V45 or V51, I'm going to achieve anything different from if I keep a target of V25. If I do everything else same, my daily activities remain the same. In one case, I'm keeping a target of V45. In another case, I'm keeping a target of V30. Would my achievement differ? The constant is what I'm doing daily. That is a constant. Just that my target is changing. Would my achievement change? Anybody has any opinion? Yes, no? We will talk about that. We'll bring in discipline, and so they have some advantages, they have some disadvantages as we discussed. right? But I'm saying, let's say my daily activities remain the same, but my targets influence my achievements. No, they have absolutely zero influence on my achievements. What I end up achieving is not dependent on my target. It's only dependent on what I do daily. So the only way my targets are useful or harmful are the way in which they impact my daily activities. Right? That is the only way. Now, if you have this clarity in mind, this is the only way my targets influence my achievements. So now you need to see which target is helping you maximize your whatever you end up achieving on a daily or a weekly basis. If a V45 is really going to motivate you and you're really going to study, you're really going to gain a lot of clarity, really going to be very motivated throughout the day, keep V45 as a target. Why not? If V45 is going to really bring you down, कि भाई मेरे से तो easy question नहीं हो रहे हैं, V45 तो भाई इस दुनिया में आएगा, and you are constantly thinking about that this is not going to happen, what am I doing in my life, I'm struggling with easy question, how can I get easy medium question, how is this even possible? Then it doesn't make sense to keep V45 as a target. You can keep a V30 as a target. You have to understand that targets have no impact on your achievement. They have an impact on your achievement only by impacting what you end up doing daily. So this is one of the things we have learned in our lives, unfortunately, that if somebody is not performing, what do? We push him or her. कर क्यों नहीं रहा है? Right? कर क्यों नहीं रही है? Push is the way. Criticism is the way. Of course, it applies to others, but it also applies to ourselves. Of course, the way we treat others is the way we are going to treat ourselves. So what happens when we are not achieving? We push. So we keep stringent targets, we criticize, but are we not achieving because of a lack of push or because of a lot of push? Why are we not achieving? Is this really because of a lack of push? Or is there because because there is already a lot of push there? You just need to now relax and then you will achieve. So this is a question you need to ask. So that will also sort of impact how you set your targets. Whether you need to set aggressive targets or whether you need to set relaxed targets. Whether you need to push yourselves or whether you need to give yourself some leeway. Again, what works for you is what you need to see. Yeah, Anish, you want to add something?
I'll also add a conversation I had with a student in the past. So he had a very stringent timeline. I don't remember, it was a while back, but he said, Ki bhai, I want to reach 740 in 45 days. So my follow-up question was, what if you don't reach there in 45 days? Then what? And his answer was, there's no plan B. There is no plan B. My question to him then was, bhai, what's your plan A? Reaching 740 in 45 days is not a plan. That's a goal. Right? Those of you who've been doing critical reasoning for a while, you would have heard these terms, plan and goal. वो तो goal है. Goal बनाना कौन सा मुश्किल है? I just wrote a post on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. Bhai, my goal is to become a billionaire by the end of this year or in 3 months. बना लो goal. Goal तो झट से कुछ भी बना लो, right? It doesn't take time at all to make goals. What really matters is what we are really doing to achieve those goals. And we spend so much time on creating those goals, very little time on actually working towards achieving them, I feel. At least that's very true for me. I don't know if this happens with you also. It happened with me all the time in, I think, school and college. I'll share. So, for example, I would start calculating, 6 weeks till exams, 6 subjects, roughly 1 week per subject. All of a sudden, 3 weeks till exams, 6 subjects, six subjects, same chapters number. Now, half a week per subject. Karte, and may one night before the exam, you're doing things. And I see some smiles, and perhaps it's a very common issue. Right? तो target तो बना ही रहे थे. Right? Oh, ठीक है. 6 weeks, 1 week, 3 weeks, half a week. Target बनाना कौन सा मुश्किल काम है? Right? Am I actually putting in the effort every day or not? What I have done many times is that although I don't put in any efforts, but when I have less time left, I'll make my targets even more stringent than before. Versus, basically, if you think about it logically, which even I don't many times, but if you think about it, perhaps the best way to gauge how much I'll achieve in the next 1 month, 1 week, 2 months is looking at how much I've achieved in the last week, last month, last 2 months. Right? If in 2 months I've just moved this much, if I have to go from Delhi to Amritsar, if in 5 hours I haven't reached the midway point, there's no way I'll reach the destination in 10 hours. Right? It'll take me longer. तो अगर अभी तक ही नहीं हो रहा है सही से, suddenly कहाँ से होने लग जाएगा? But many times our response, my response has been many times to make things even more stringent. अब तो करना ही करना है, right? अब तो और भी कम time में करना है. Plus, you're not even looking at, oh, since my last attempt, now I've been preparing for these many weeks. Often for people who've been preparing for a while, it's a cumulative figure. Arey, I've been preparing for 2 years. Arey, I've been preparing for 4 years. अब तो खत्म करना ही है. Never ending थोड़ी बना देना है इसको. Right? Unfortunately, whatever that period is, 2 years or 4 years, वो तो गया. That's not coming back. And fortunately or unfortunately, whatever skills you have developed or you haven't developed, you are at your current level. That's the reality. Right? तो अब तो उससे improve करना है. Just because, let's say, I've been going to the gym for many days doesn't matter. What matters is what my today's physique is. बोलने को चाहे मैं रोज जिम में अटेंडेंस लगा के आ जाऊं, क्या फायदा? Right? It's not. So that concept of sunk cost, while we all understand, I think here again, that cumulative figure plays a very big role for many people who've been preparing for a while. Oh, it's been this long. I can't afford to spend much longer. Therefore, I need an even more stringent target. Not realizing it's perhaps, to quite an extent, as Chiranjeev elaborated, it's perhaps these targets which are actually causing things to get delayed. And so much procrastination also happens. Yeah, Chiranjeev.
Yeah. So the thing is, again, to emphasize this again, if your targets are impeding your learning, then you need to change your targets, because at least one part of your preparation is not working in your favor, which is in your control. Targets are in your control. Of course, you may think, no, these are not in my control. I have a constraint I have to apply in round 2. So when let's say if you have that timeline. So first of all, I've seen a lot of people have this timeline that I have to apply in round 2. And when they're not able to achieve their score, they're like, okay, I'll apply next year. So they also create kind of artificial deadlines for themselves just to push themselves. Okay. But the point is, if you're keeping those timelines, let's consider a scenario where R2 is actually a hard deadline for you for whatever personal, professional reasons. So you have to, let's say, get it done by December end. So now by December end, so you have 20 days or 30 days, whatever right date we are talking about. You have 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever number of days you have. Now what? What do you do? So first of all, achieving XYZ score is not in your hand. Do you agree? अगर मैं आज कहूँगा मुझे 770 चाहिए या 800 चाहिए, it's not going to happen because of what I desire. What is the best that I can do for myself in those, let's say, 40 days? What can I do? What improves my score? What do I do that improves my score? Tell me. Preparation से improve कहाँ होता है इसको? 4 साल, 2 साल and all that, right? Focused efforts. Okay, that's a good attempt. identifying patterns of errors, identifying your errors. So देखो basically बात है कि yeah, you can make efforts. That's the only thing that is in your hand. But the point is it's only through learning that the score improves. Through nothing else. You may wish anything, you may do hundreds of questions, but if you're not learning, a score is not going to move. Nobody is going to ask you there, okay, so how many questions have you attempted before you're taking this? No, there is no such question on the screen. Right? So the only thing that improves your score is how much you have learned in your preparation. So whether you have 40 days or you have 4 months or you have whatever time you have, the only thing that you can do is to maximize your learning during whatever days you have. Right? Anybody disagrees? Okay. So the only thing that you can do to improve your score in the best way possible, but during whatever time you have, is to maximize your learning in those days. Now, what can you do to maximize your learning? Doing 50 questions every day. Will that maximize your learning? But that's what people end up doing when they have, let's say, 30 days. They say, acha, so in 30 days, I have SC, CR, RC, Quant. Quant के मुझे 400 क्वेश्चन तो करने चाहिए because otherwise it's too less. 400 Quant, 100, 100, 700 questions I have. And then I need to give some time for mocks and all that. So I have 15 days, 700 questions. I'll do 50 every day. So essentially, you're thinking in terms of questions per day now. Now you're doing questions, you're not learning because you don't have time to learn, because a lot of time 50 questions take. So there is not much time left to analyze and exactly understand what your problem areas are and all that. But you don't realize that you're not learning. And then I ask people, okay, but it's better to do 5 questions a day than 50 questions a day. And then they're like, they kind of agree. Yeah, it makes sense. If I'm learning more from 5 questions, it makes sense. And then they go back and try to do just 5 questions or whatever questions they can do justice to within a day. And then they're like, sir, but I was not feeling well. I've done just 5 questions in a day. At the end of the day, I was feeling dissatisfied with my preparation. So this is the problem with your feelings now. You are dissatisfied with doing 5 questions a day, but you are not dissatisfied with learning nothing and doing 50 questions a day. So now you need to do something with your feelings now, with the source of your satisfaction or dissatisfaction, right? If you continue to be driven by your internal triggers of satisfaction and dissatisfaction, it's not working in your favor. It's as simple as that. Right? If you just think about it, you are happy, you're just fine. Like, okay, 50 questions a day. Did I learn? How much did I learn? I don't know. But take it, I've done 50. I've done 5, or just 5. 30 days, 150 questions. That's all I'll do for my prep. नहीं, थोड़ा तो करना चाहिए. You are not clear what's going to help you in your preparation. You somehow think that some amount of questions will help you. You're not clear that only learning will help you. This idea is not there. So your targets, so one is your eventual target, 720 in whatever 40 days or 60 days. And then you have your weekly or daily target. They are in terms of questions or amount of content you want to cover, as Ria was saying. ये amount cover करना है. But उस cover करने से क्या होगा? How will that help you in your preparation? How will that help का क्या मतलब है? Of course, you have to cover all the content. Bro, तो ठीक है. But is that helping in your score? Only if you are clear about that thing will that help in your score. So you can cover all the content, you can spend 3 months, get a subpar score, again spend another 3 months, get another subpar score, spend another 3 months. You can go on this like, and then at the end you may say, oh, probably I don't have the capability. This is just BS, right? You don't have the right process. And now you're doubting your capability. You should have said that I don't have the right process. I'm too driven by nonsensical things. How do you know even capability? You haven't even given yourself the opportunity to bring out your capability. If you just keep engaging in a lot of nonsense and you don't improve, you can't say you don't have the capability. Probably you had, but you never gave yourself the opportunity to perform at your capability. And you may say, oh, but I've spent 2 years. How long will it take? You can spend 10 years. It may still not happen. The point is not how much time you have spent. The point is how much you have learned from it. And again, how much you learn also at the end of the day is not in your control. So Nish and I were discussing today. So the targets is eventually you want to score a 720 or whatever. That is not in your control for sure. Then the next is your mock scores. That's also not in your control. The next is what kind of accuracy you have in a timed environment. That is also not in your control. How much accuracy you have in untimed environment. That is dependent on how much clarity you have. That is directly not in your control. How much clarity you have, is that in your control? That is also not in your control. The only thing that is in your control is how sincere you are in the process of learning. Even clarity is an outcome that happens. The aha moments, the insights. As an year, you can sit together and say, I'll have 4 aha moments today. It just cannot happen. This is also not in your control. Forget about a 700 or 720. What is in your control is simply how sincere you are in your efforts to learn. But even this desire to learn is somehow has been muddled. The desire is not even to learn, the desire is to somehow get the score. So that's fine. Again, I understand it's not that in some other domain of life in which I'm sort of pursuing something, I may also have similar desire to get to that end score. But the point is, overall, it's not helpful. Right? If you are sincerely trying to learn, that is the best that you can do for your targets. And I'm just speaking about your targets here in a very utilitarian term. I also want you to achieve your targets. Targets are not in your hand. Only your efforts are. So now, whatever targets you set, they influence your efforts. So choose those targets and design those targets in a way that you are able to give your best to it. That is the point.
I'll add a couple of things here, Chiranjeev. Ek to learning, as Chiranjeev very well explained, right? How what we're really after is learning. Many times, and this has happened with me also, we treat learning and scoring as the same thing. Right? A personal experience, when I was in class 10th, 1 week before the exams, final boards, what me and many of my friends, the only thing that we used to focus on was going through past 10 years papers. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but it was very common at that time. Right? So what we would be focusing on that is, at that time, is getting those booklets with past 10 years paper questions and figuring out patterns. Oh, this question hasn't appeared in the last 2-3 years. It'll probably come again. This one came 2 years in a row. It won't come again. Things like that. So learning, nowhere in the picture. It made sense to an extent because it helped us score. Right? So these jugadu ways of preparing were helping us score. So many times we don't even realize how there's actually good quality studying and bad quality studying. Right? Kehne ko to theek hai, it's fine, I'm studying. But what really are you studying? Right? Like learning itself. Learning doesn't just mean, oh, I have the book open in front of me and I'm reading what I'm reading. Right? Am I actually gaining from what I'm doing? For many tests, it works. For many tests, it works. Just figuring out these hacks, these jugaads, and somehow we get the scores that we're looking for. It's been serving it serves many people quite well until they reach GMAT, which perhaps for many is the first well-designed test. Such a test which doesn't reward hacks, which doesn't reward jugaad, right? For example, in critical reasoning, I've heard this, oh, this option is wrong because usually such options are wrong. I've seen, right? Usually they're wrong, therefore this one is also wrong. But why are they usually wrong? Right? Isn't that the real reason that we should be looking for? Why are they wrong in the first place? And then we can apply that reason directly here. Because if the only reason an option is wrong is that it's been wrong in the past, then that means a new person can never answer such a question who hasn't seen those old questions. Right? So even while studying, we don't realize that, oh, we are still trying to hack our way through the system. Right? So this realization that all studying is not equal. There is good quality and lower quality studying, and consequently proper learning and improper learning. Right? I feel that was something which I myself gathered quite late in my education journey. Right? It's not just about studying. I'm studying. Oh, I've put in so many hours. What I'm doing, is it just for somehow getting the score, or is it to truly learn? I'll repeat. I want to emphasize on this again. While it might work for many exams, GMAT is a well-designed test where typically, at least what I've seen, hacks don't work. And that's why many people get stuck. Okay, apni taraf se, they feel they're doing the right things, they're putting in the effort, they're doing the steps. Right? But is it truly the process that will help you learn those skills, that will help you get better? That's never even evaluated. Right? So many times, for example, like Chiranjeev mentioned those stages, exam, mock test and all that. Many times the way to gauge how your prep is going or how someone's prep is going is based on, oh yeah, my prep is going well, my accuracy has improved. Yeah, my prep is going well, my mock scores have improved. Again, things that you see on a screen after you've answered the questions. So, for example, if you click on the same buttons, do everything the same, but in the end, the score is different, then your decision about your preparation might change. Oh, my preparation is not going well because the score is low. Or my preparation is going well because that score is higher. But then again, that's external. Can you not tell yourself whether you're improving or not? Do you always need some barometer, some external device to tell you, oh, accuracy percentage this much, therefore improving, mark score this much, therefore improving? Clarity, as Chiranjeev mentioned. Can you not focus on, are things truly becoming clearer to you? And that then we can gauge within one question. It's not even about, oh, let's see in the future if I'm improving or not, or if I'm getting similar questions correct in the future or not. Right? Is clarity improving for you at every step, every stage? I do want to mention, though, kind of a caveat, and even clarity, I know I misuse it quite often. Right? I ask my students, does it make sense? And if they say yes, then fine, it makes sense. But as I've started realizing on follow-up questions, that perhaps it doesn't make sense to the level I would like them to understand things. So there can be levels of understanding also. Right? At certain level, you might feel, theek, I've understood, wonderful. But there might be things that you can still understand at a deeper level in the same content. Right? So then where do we stop? Till what level do we go? Maybe if you've gone down 5 levels, there could still be more levels beyond that. So do we keep going? Again, so this is where now that whole timeline battle comes in. If you have a timeline that you're thinking about, oh, I have to wrap up in 3 months, then that's the kind of calculations we would do. Oh, I've already been spending 5 days on this topic. I have to wrap up everything in 3 months. I can't afford to spend any longer on this. Therefore, I need to move on. Versus if you're preparing to learn, even if you have spent 5 days, even then, no, I feel I'm still not completely clear about these things. I feel I can still understand more. So I need to continue going deeper. Which as a consequence would mean the 3 months timeline would get pushed back, but that's fine. Because now I'm not compromising on my learning for the sake of that time. Right? I'm prioritizing my learning, which is kind of one drawback, which I think Ria mentioned earlier, of having those deadlines, that we might not realize, but we end up making such compromises real time while we're studying.
So
Huh.
yeah,
Let me mention one more thing. Sorry, you had a point related to this, Chiranjeev?
yeah, related to what you
Go ahead then. I have something different.
Yeah. So the thing that you mentioned that we look at improvements in terms of our scores. If the score is not improving, then oh, we are not learning. So that's so this is the point that I wanted to talk about, that the improvement as far as scores is concerned is not linear. So let's say you want to improve by 150 points in 6 months. So it's not that every 2 months you'll improve by 50 points. I had a student, so my biggest success story has been from the person who started at 380, he went to 710. So he was at verbal, so whatever score. So start 380 to 710, and it took him 14 months, and he was doing it full time also. He was a married guy, but he was still doing it full time for whatever reasons. It took him 14 months. So he started, when he started, he was taking 40 minutes per CR question. Okay. So 40 minutes tell you two things. One is that he had really rudimentary skills, right? Of course, his score also tells that 380, he was at verbal 15, bottom 10 percentile and all that. So his skills were really rudimentary, very basic skills. So 40 minutes tell you that. But 40 minutes also tell you that he was very sincere in following whatever I was asking him to do. He was really trying to understand each and everything as I asked him to do. He was not rushing. So even though his skills were very rudimentary, he was very sincere. So he was taking 40 minutes per CR question in the beginning. So before he came to me, he had taken a GMAT after preparing for 6 months. He was 380. And then he started and all that. So after 6 months, suddenly something happened to him that, oh, I have been preparing for this for 6 months with CJ. So let me take a mock. He did not even ask me. He took a mock. He scored at 200. Verbal 6, quant 6, which is the lowest you can get. But if you deliberately mark every question wrong, knowing the answer, you say, nahi, main ye to mark nahi karunga. Then also you can't go below that. So he got that score, verbal 2, sort of overall 200, verbal 6.6. Now, why? Because his timing had come down from 40 minutes to 10 minutes per CR question. So he was still taking about 10 minutes on CR question, 8 to 9 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes on SC and all that. So overall in verbal section at that point, there used to be, I'm not sure, 41 questions in verbal. He attempted just 13 questions. In quant also attempted a similar number. So essentially he ended up leaving 2/3 of the paper. So if you don't even attempt 2/3 of the paper, what score can you expect? So this is the score he got, 200. He cried for a couple of days and all that, and then he got back to studying again. But the point is, if you look at his score at that time, so then it'll be like, oh, he started at 380, 6 months with CJ, he's down to 200. Fantastic, right? So if you look at in terms of movement in the score, it has gone down in a very significant way, actually. But then if you look at another 8 months, he was up to 710 then with a verbal 40. Because the movement in score is not linear. If you are at a 380 or a 550 or a whatever score, it means you don't have clarity. But to build clarity, you have to really slow down. And when you are really slowed down, you can't attempt a mock because that mock is in a timed environment. If you end up taking a mock, your score could be very low or could be just near where it was to begin with. So then how do we know whether we are improving? So this is what Anish was talking. So you need to the first measure of your improvement is a subjective measure, which is how clear you are, how confident you are. The first measure is a subjective measure. The second measure is your accuracy on questions you have not done earlier, because there is no memory now. That is the second measure, accuracy. You're taking a lot of time, as much time as you need, but now let's see how many questions can you get right. So a lot of people, so for example, I was doing this session it was an RC session, so I give this RC passages beforehand. So I asked him to really take as much time as he needs to the student, but just attempt the passages, but take as much time. He was kind of like very resistant to this idea. कहता sir, if I take as much time, then I can, in any case, I always get all the questions right. What's the point? Okay, then it should be within a time limit. It could be a little relaxed, but doesn't make sense. So it took me a few minutes to convince him that I'll just have faith and just do it on time. Take as much time. You're like, okay, I'll try it. He tried that. His accuracy about 70-75%. People just don't realize that even if I give them, even if they have all the time in the world, they are still going to get a lot of questions wrong. Why are you getting those questions wrong? And if 25% of the questions you are just plain getting wrong, there would be another 25% of the questions in which you are stuck in the last two options and just gotten them right. So there are only 50% questions. When you have all the time in the world, you're clear only about 50% of the questions. That's your situation. So the first thing is clarity. The second is your accuracy when you're doing it on time. How is it? Is it 70%? Is it 80%? Is it 90%, 95%? What kind of accuracy are you hitting? Then you look at the next parameter of your improvement is in a timed environment, what's your accuracy? Then your mock score, then your eventual final score. The first thing is, how do you feel about it? And then if you can't rely on your feeling, then start looking at your accuracy in untimed way. Sorry, that's what I think I spoke a lot about other things also, but I wanted to take that example of the score is not a reflection of how much you.
Yeah. It's a hockey curve, right? And plus, in fact, not even a hockey curve because it doesn't remain flat. Maybe it dips and then increases later on.
Yeah.
But to add to your point, I thought of one more story. Many times that things like this, right? Slow down, take as long as you need, don't rush. Many times the sense that people get is that, array, then my prep will take so long. How can I afford to take that long? Anna, how can I afford to spend 40 minutes on one question even? Right? You are asking me to slow down. I can't afford that. I have to get done within time for round 2 or whatever. So I take this example of somebody stuck in quicksand, daldal. Somebody's in quicksand and that person's really frantic, right? Flapping all over the place, moving their arms, legs. And then let's say somebody learned who knows how quicksand works, goes there and he's like, "Arey, hold on, slow down. And the guy in quicksand is like, no, I can't afford to slow down. Otherwise, I'll go in quicksand. And the guy outside is like, "Arey, that is why I'm asking you to slow down. So that you can get out of quicksand quickly." This is something which might seem counterintuitive, but and it's very difficult to grasp, right? What we are doing, we're asking you to slow down, not necessarily so that your overall preparation duration gets extended. We're asking you to slow down so that you get done with it as soon as you can.
Yeah, and what would be achieved by slowing your preparation time? Right?
हमारे पैसे और बढ़ सकते हैं.
यार क्लासरूम में तो फिक्स्ड होता है यार, उसमें भी हम स्लो डाउन के लिए बोलते हैं. Extensions they can take.
है ना, मतलब भाई, I've had, for example, in first introductory call that I take with private tutoring students before they become students, many times this is the sense, अरे यार ये तो लंबा लटकाएगा, right? What perhaps doesn't get communicated or what perhaps people fail to understand sometimes is, bhai, this is not truly slowing down the whole preparation duration. It's asking you to slow down today to grasp more, to learn more, so that overall you actually get done more quickly.
Yeah. So
ASAP word use karte hum log kitni baar, as soon as possible. And one of my favorite words, right? I get people, I want to get done with GMAT ASAP. And theek hai, bilkul theek hai. I want to get done within 1.5 months. My reply is, ASAP we can do, 1.5 months we can't. It's like, hey, what does that even mean? Right? ASAP means as soon as possible. We can't do any sooner than it is possible. And if for you that means 1.5 months, then great. But if for you that means 6 months, then that's ASAP for you. If for you that means 18 months, then that's ASAP for you. Right? As soon as possible se zyada jaldi to kar hi nahi sakte anyway.
Yeah.
And neither of us wants you to take longer than what you need to take. And that's one reason why we're having this webinar here, right? So that, again, people who've been at it for a while can talk about this. This actually just keeps pushing things back. So I'll add one more story here about things getting pushed back, especially for retakers. I was sharing this example with Chiranjeev today about how many of these tech companies have MVPs, minimum viable products. And they come out with an app. The first version of the app is not very fancy. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it does the basics. And the idea is that fatafat will release, we'll get feedback, and based on feedback, we'll improve. And then people use a very similar approach in GMAT prep also. Ki chalo, I'll do one cycle of preparation. If I hit my target score, wonderful. If I don't, okay, I'll start again. I'll fix whatever issues were there. Again, I'll do a cycle. Right? If that time also I don't achieve, then further I'll fix, and so on. And it works. For some people, it does work. But for many, it doesn't. So for whom does it work? And in what situations does it work? Why doesn't it work for others? What I feel, what I've seen and what I've gauged from that if your current level is not very far off from your target level, then just going through this cycle can get you there. You just needed to tweak a few things. Maybe overall you had quite a few things in place already. And so through some practice, through a quick round of preparation, you were able to improve and you get done. Or maybe even after one attempt, not a lot is left, which you tackle in the next attempt. And then you get done in 1 or 2 cycles. Versus now, let me take an example first. Let's say we want to build a house. I won't build a house using this approach. Oh, let me first quickly just create the whole thing in one go, right? Roughly. And then I'll come back and improve every level again. If needed, then I'll come back and further improve every level again. Right? To make a house, I will first focus on the foundation properly. Make sure that's sorted completely and only then move on to the ground floor. Only then move on to the first floor and so on. Right? So if your current level and your target level are significantly far apart, then perhaps this approach makes more sense of going about it systematically. First, working on your foundation, then building on that, and then building on that, and so on. As opposed to, oh, let me do everything in one go. If needed, then I'll improve further. So, and this is, I feel, one reason why many times people spend years that they go through multiple, like I think Shubhankar also mentioned earlier, they go through multiple cycles. They haven't been preparing for, let's say, 2 years or 4 years or whatever number of years. No, they've been preparing for X number of independent 3-month cycles. And then the benefits of one cycle, I mean, don't really trickle into the next cycle that much. I'm sure there'll be some advantages of having done things in the past. But also many times people then repeat the same mistakes they have been making. And that's why it just keeps repeating again and again. Because although you're doing it again, but you're still repeating the same mistakes, then how will the score improve? Right? Again, the subjectivity of clarity comes in. Ki bhai, if you're not even gauging how your prep is going, if it's just about going through the motions, oh, I have to do these things, without even evaluating whether you're actually improving, whether you're actually learning, whether you're truly engaging with those things, fir to bas autopilot mode pe you're just doing the things, right? You're just doing the actions. And then that's why for many people, that first mock score after preparation is a shock. Are, ye kya ho gaya? Because before that, they perhaps haven't even evaluated anything else. They haven't even gauged ki bhai tayari sahi chal bhi rahi hai ki nahi chal rahi hai. So, should we talk about milestones, Chiranjeev, a little bit?
talk about.
तो हाँ यार, तो basically all this discussion कि भाई targets kind of the evils of targets, it seems, could be the name of today's session, है ना, कि भाई क्यों नहीं बनाने चाहिए, issues क्या होते हैं, तो करें क्या फिर, right? So then what's even the solution? Okay, fine, discard targets, but then what do you even do, right? How do we even measure? Chiranjeev just mentioned that improvement is not linear. So फिर will it be a complete black box? And I don't know how long I'll be inside this black box. And suddenly one day I'll be improved on the other end, right? So there are milestones that we can set, like Chiranjeev also already mentioned. Starting with first point is the subjective milestone of, is my clarity improving? Not accuracy. Is my clarity improving? Next, not subjective, but still not something you'll see on a screen. Before accuracy, did you have clear reasons for every answer choice? Were you confident about every answer choice? Forget, did you select the correct answer in the end? Did you reject the incorrect answers for the right reasons? Right. So like Chiranjeev mentioned earlier, even if let's say your eventual answer is correct, but you were stuck between two options, then that's the question that you weren't 100% clear about. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been stuck. By the way, let me also mention this. In my experience, in almost all verbal questions, almost all, there are, and Chiranjeev, you can correct me if you have a different experience, there are 4 incorrect and 1 correct answer. So although many times the language is, which of the following strengthens the most, or this comparative language like that, despite that language, in I would say definitely more than 95, maybe even 99% plus cases, 4 answer choices will not strengthen at all. Only 1 answer choice will strengthen. And that's true for other questions or other question types also, within CR, within RC. All are verbal. So फिर that becomes the next measure, right? How clear are you with your reasons for each answer choice? Next then comes accuracy, right? What are you getting the right answers or not? But that too, accuracy combined with confidence. It's not just about, oh yeah, I got 85% questions correct. Those 85% questions, were you 100% confident about each one of those answers? So like the 2 options conundrum, right? I was stuck between 2 options. There's one side that, arey yaar, I almost had the right answer, but I ended up selecting the wrong answer in the end, right? That's what, for example, the remaining 15%, often that's the attached sadness. Arey yaar, I was almost there. But actually, maybe, and probably the problem is bigger than just within those 15% questions. Because like Chiranjeev mentioned, even the questions you got correct, even within those questions, there'll be questions in which you were stuck, but eventually you selected the right one. So actually the problem is bigger, right? Some of them you eventually clicked on the right answer, some of them you clicked on the wrong answer. That's the outcome. That's secondary, right? That doesn't matter as much. What really matters is that clarity bit. So focus on that for each answer choice, right? Then accuracy in an untimed environment. Now, untimed means untimed. I've had many times I tell people or not many times, but I remember one specific student, I told him by untimed. And he came back, yeah, this time I didn't put any time. It's wonderful. It turned out eventually that he was giving himself 2.5 to 3 minutes per question, not more than that. For him, that was untimed. I mean, he couldn't even fathom how you can afford to spend longer than that. Right? So untimed ka matlab, even 40 minutes is not an upper limit. There is no upper limit. If you do 1 question in a day, that's fine. So no targets based on number of questions, like Chiranjeev also mentioned. You can target hours. Today, I'm going to study for 2 hours, for example. And then within those 2 hours, if you're practicing, whether you get 2 questions done, 20 questions done, that depends on how things are going. Don't set that number beforehand. So accuracy in an untimed environment. So again, we can have different targets for different difficulties. Easy questions, 90 to 95% accuracy. Medium questions, 80 to 85% accuracy. Hard questions, 70 to 80% accuracy. Unless you're hitting these benchmarks, it doesn't make sense to move on to the next stage of time practice. Even if in untimed manner, you're already getting a significant portion wrong, then that number is only going to go up in time practice. Plus, it's not even about that, oh, today I'm taking 40 minutes, and today in 40 minutes, I'm scoring 90% accuracy. Tomorrow, I'll move to 2 minutes per question. No, there's that whole spectrum in the middle. From 40 minutes, you slowly move to 35, 30, and so on till eventually you reach close to that 2-minute figure. Right? So there's that whole journey. Then when you eventually reach the time practice of time limits according to the exam, even then, let's say roughly 5% less than the targets you had earlier. But still, we try to achieve, let's say, between 70 to 85, 90% accuracy overall across difficulties. Next comes mock scores. I'll mention one thing about mock scores. That even if, let's say, in all your time practice, you've got 90% accuracy, let's say 90% accuracy in all your time practice. Does that mean you will get that 740, 750, 760 on the mock test? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because there are additional skills being tested there also. Right? How comfortable are you dealing with mixed bag questions? Suddenly one RC, suddenly one CR, then suddenly this question, that question. How comfortable are you with that countdown clock that's constantly hovering over you, right? How much stamina do you have? Are you able to maintain your focus for that extended duration? How distracted do you feel? Right? So there's so many things that perhaps would come for the first time while you're taking a test. So then what scores to look for in the test? Well, that would depend on eventually what kind of scores you'd like to get. Also, so in mocks, I recommend usually that, let's say your target score is 700, then hit that 700 mark, or actually ideally at least 20, 30% points more consistently, right? At least in 2-3 tests. If it's just happened one-off once, that perhaps is not enough to signify that, oh, I'm ready to go and take the exam. So this way you can set milestones for your preparation overall, right? And then you would yourself know, oh, okay, I'm doing well at this stage, so now I can advance to the next stage. These things are completely different compared with, oh, let me look at mock scores. After 6 months, my mock score should have reached this much, then this much, right? So the subjectivity also involved at certain levels. There's some levels are objective, but I think these kind of milestones can help you with your preparation step by step. Chiranjeev?
The first thing that you measure is sort of how much time you are devoting. So I think वहाँ पे ही बड़ा लोचा होता है. People say that, oh, I am going to study 4 hours a day, and then कभी शादी आ गई, कभी ऑफिस में काम आ गया, कभी ये हो गया, and then all that. So they don't realize that they are spending just 1.5 hours a day. So first thing that you need to track is how much time you are devoting. That's the first thing you need to that should be your target. Of course, another thing that comes in is, what if you don't achieve your targets? Again, as I said, it's a very rudimentary approach we have learned from the society. If you don't achieve, then you're like, oh, tu buddhu hai, tu ye hai. Criticism is the way. You can do that if you like that. What am I to say? But the point is that helpful? When you engage in self-criticism, when you don't achieve your targets, are you helping yourself in achieving more? So that's one question. The second question, and a more fundamental question and a more interesting question for me is, let's say your self-criticism helps you achieve more. Would you like to have that kind of relationship with yourself? Of course, theoretically, we can all say nahi and all that, but this is the kind of relationship with which we have with ourselves. We don't even evaluate that. The second is, of course, I believe that most of the time, self-criticism doesn't even help you achieve also more. Of course, right? So one is that I don't think it helps you achieve more. The second is, even if it helps you achieve more, is this something you want to be a part of your life? When the बाकी तो criticize करेंगे, you also want to criticize yourself. That's a question that you need to think about. So one is starting with these targets, and at any level, whatever targets you set for yourself, what do you do when you don't achieve those targets? As I said, criticism or more pushing yourself, setting more stringent targets and all that, these are ways to push yourself. But are you not performing because of a lack of push or because too much push? That's again something you need to think about. So then the second is start with efforts, and as Anish said, clarity and untimed accuracy in untimed way. And then Anish said, that it's not that, let's say you're hitting a 90% accuracy and you're taking 40 minutes per question, and then you're moving to time. You're like, oh, kal se I'll take 2 minutes per question because I'm moving to time. You can't have that jump from 40 minutes to 2 minutes. So it will be 40 to 35, so as Anish said. So it is going to be gradual. And how do you even make that gradual shift? Again, what people think is, oh, so tomorrow I'll set a timer for 35 minutes or 30 minutes. This is not how you reduce your time. Think about it. Today you are taking 40 minutes. Tomorrow you are saying, oh, I'll reduce it to 30 minutes. And how? I'll set a timer for 30 minutes and I'll get it done. So were you taking 40 minutes, not 30 minutes today, because you were lazy? Oh, I can get it done in 30 minutes, but I have a lot of time, so let me take 40 minutes. The next time you put a timer, nahi, aaj to 30 minutes hai mere paas, so I'll take 30 minutes. No, laziness is not the reason you're taking 40 minutes instead of 30 minutes. You're taking 40 minutes because you need those 40 minutes to really do justice to the question given your skills. You need 40 minutes to be able to understand and argue and reason our options. So then you can't just improve your timing by putting a timer on yourself. Putting a timer can help you only if your problem is of laziness. कि मैं देखो मैं कर तो सकता हूँ 2 मिनट में, पर मैं 10 मिनट लेता हूँ because I have a lot of time in the world. Then you put a timer, नहीं आज तो 2 ही मिनट है मेरे पास. Then the timer can help. So when Anish talks about it, it goes down from 40 to 35 to 30. It essentially is an improvement in your skills, in terms of your clarity, in terms of your comfort. So it's not something you achieve. It's something that happens automatically. That suddenly, as you keep practicing, as your clarity increases, as your comfort increases, you see, I don't need that much time anymore. Okay, so it happens on its own as a consequence of your skills. So speed is not a skill in itself, it's a consequence of skills. As your skills improve, your timing improves. So that's what I wanted to show.
I'll come back to the previous point Chiranjeev was talking about, how, for example, you can gauge how many hours are you spending per week, right? You think you will spend 4 hours per day, but maybe you're actually really spending an hour and a half on average. So the two kinds of things that we can evaluate on a weekly basis or a daily basis. Ek to ho gaya, number of hours. Another thing that I think Ria had mentioned initially, that, for example, she has a target of, I want to finish word problems in this week. Right? So how would someone even know at the start of the week that I'll be able to finish word problems in that week? Uska kya formula lagaya hai? Yaar, itna to ho hi jana chahiye. Right? So obviously one is, again, working backwards. Overall, I should finish my preparation in 3 months. Overall, there are 12 modules. That means these many modules per week. But again, that's not based on how you are going, how much you are understanding. So 2 things I recommend that you focus on in terms of evaluating whether, for example, today was a successful prep day. or this week was a successful prep week? Were you able to put in as many hours as you thought you would put in? And were you able to do as much as you thought you would do? Now, I use the word successful, but I straight away regret using that word, because then the consequence would be, oh, if I didn't put in those many hours, or if I didn't get as much out of this week as I wanted to, then it's an unsuccessful week, or even worse words, right? So, but overall, it's about actually checking whether you are hitting those milestones or not, and then course correcting as needed, or recalibrating your expectations. Right? If overall you think, oh, I should be done in 3 months, but actually instead of 4 months, 4 hours, you're spending 1 hour every day, then just if, let's say, assuming everything else is equal, you should take 4 times the time actually, because you're putting in 1/4 the time every day. So overall, instead of 3 months, you should probably take 12 months. If you feel you'll be able to cover 1 module every week, but you're actually only able to cover half a module, then again, your time will get doubled. Right? So 2 factors broadly: how much time you are spending. Are you actually spending as much time as you thought you would spend? Now, thought you would spend. This is again also for many people new, because अरे इसके बारे में क्या सोचना है? Whatever free time I have, I devote to GMAT only. Right? I go to work, come back, then it's GMAT. Right? So many people pause their lives altogether कि भाई नहीं, जब तक GMAT नहीं होगा तब तक तो और कुछ भी नहीं. They might not share with their colleagues or friends, but still a friend calls them over for coffee. But the reason you give them might be different, but still for you, it's like, no, GMAT se pehle to bilkul bhi nahi. I had a student who told me that, and in fact, similar stories I've heard multiple times, that bhai, I studied till the time my eyes automatically shut down at night. Many times, he told me, many times I wake up with the laptop lying right next to me, or sometimes even lying on me. Right? तो फिर कि मतलब बस पढ़ना ही पढ़ना है जब तक. So I recommend you treat GMAT prep as though, for example, you would treat working out. For example, if you, let's say, are working regularly and rigorously towards maintaining fitness or getting fitter, so it's not like, oh, all day, all the time you'll focus on, let me go climb stairs, let me do this, let me do that. No? You go work out in the gym or whatever you do that, you maintain your diet and all those other good things, but you do your workout and then you're done for the day. Right? It's not like, I have to figure out between work, I have to take out those 10 minutes to go and do 2 questions or to go and do 10 push-ups. Right? You do your workout and then you're done and you feel good about it. Same thing here also. Figure out how many hours you want to spend. Figure out or plan how much you anticipate you'll do in that time. And then at the end of the day, evaluate. Did you actually spend as long as you planned to spend? 1. Did you actually accomplish as much as you planned to accomplish? 2. And then use this. If there is a difference between the plans and the reality, then you course correct accordingly. Now, this could again come from both directions. Let's talk about time. Let's say you plan to spend 4 hours, but you only spent 1.5. तो एक तो हो गया अनिश, now अब तो करना ही है, you push yourself, बस यार, now you have to spend 4 hours. दूसरा हो गया, let's say maybe you push yourself for a day or 2, but then you realize, अरे भाई, hold on, I leave for work at 8 a.m. in the morning, I come back at this time, I have these people in my family, this, therefore that actually anyway leaves this much time for preparation. So there's no way actually I can take out 4 hours every day on a regular basis. Right? Then basically, then you match your reality to your expectations. Sorry, your expectation to your reality, right? कि भाई कहाँ से हो जाएंगे 4 hours if anyway you don't have that time. So initially, it might be a matter of, oh, I have to push myself more, But if even after trying to push yourself, you feel you're not able to take out more time, maybe it's time to realize that, oh, maybe the issue lies elsewhere. Same thing with content also. If you planned, oh, this week I have to wrap up word problems, and let's say you weren't able to wrap up word problems. Okay, then you think, okay, next week I'll do word problems also, whatever is pending, plus I'll do algebra also. Okay, if it works out well, wonderful. If it doesn't though, soon enough, ideally you should realize, Arey bhai, maybe I'm expecting too much from myself. Maybe I'm not as clear about things as I thought. Maybe word problems requires longer. So then, instead of pushing, maybe you then again start managing your expectations. Nahi, bhai, I won't be able to do 2 modules in this week. Let me focus on half a module, at least do that properly. If I have some extra time left, then I can go and do something else. Right? So what I recommend is that first of all, actually start planning. Instead of just, oh, I have to spend every waking minute, which is not spent on the other necessities, I'll spend every such minute on GMAT. Plan. Actually, how long will you spend in terms of hours? And actually, how much will you get done? Otherwise, if you don't have such a plan in place, then how would you even know whether you had a good GMAT prep day or not? So many people I come across whose regular experience while preparing for GMAT is that of guilt. Right? End of the day, every day, arey yaar, feeling guilty. Feeling guilty, why? I could have done more. I could have done better. It's not that, oh, I didn't do anything. I could have done more. Right? With this kind of framework, perhaps you can yourself realize, nahi yaar, there's no way I could have done more. In fact, in my busy schedule, even if I'm able to take out 2 hours on a regular basis, an hour and a half on a regular basis, that's already quite an achievement. Maybe that could be the sense you get. So in fact, let me share a template related to this. And it's a Google sheet that we can perhaps share with you guys later also, but I just want to show you this first free form. This should work. So this is what I recommend, right? Simple template with 4 headings, well, including date 5 headings. So for example, today's Sunday, you can chalk out a plan for the next week. What do you plan to do tomorrow? How long do you plan to spend tomorrow? If nothing else, at least you can fill this out for, let's say, the first 3 days today itself, actually. Or if you feel you can, then you can fill it out for the entire week. So the first 2 columns, the column C and D, you fill out in advance, basically, before the actual date. And then at the end of every day, for example, at the end of tomorrow, you come back and check how long did you actually spend preparing for GMAT? How many things did you actually get done? Right? That way, at least your reality will become more clear to you. And then, like I've mentioned earlier, over a period of time, while approaching it from both directions of trying to push yourself more and getting more done, to also understanding and accepting that actually you can't get more done, right? From matching from both ends, I would say one goal is that you slowly get to a stage where your planned tasks and hours quite closely match your actual tasks and hours. Now, why this template and why I'm even discussing this ties in with what we had started talking about. Why do we set targets? For that motivation, for that drive, like Chiranjeev said, essentially the only thing that it could help us with, how much efforts we're putting in on a regular basis. I'm paraphrasing, right? But essentially that's what it boils down to, that it pushes me to work. It pushes me to put in the work today. So if anyway, that's the objective, that I should have that drive to work every day. This is one alternative. Maybe you can come up with some other alternative also to push yourself, right? That one-to-one mapping, that, oh, targets are the only way to push myself. There are flaws in that, in this logic, right? There could be other things that push without the added side effects of those targets. So I'll share this Google Sheet with you. You can make a copy and try it on your own. One thing that can help also with this, if you already have a friend who's preparing for the GMAT along with you, a friend or a colleague, You could use them as an accountability partner. Or maybe you guys can find someone within each other here also. An accountability partner, basically someone with whom you share this sheet on a regular basis, for example, every day, so that one, you make sure you're actually filling it in, right? Because that's the first thing. It's very easy that you do it for a couple of days and then it just gets left out. That you do it regularly. And plus, because you're going to share, this is what people have shared with me in the past, that because I knew I had to eventually share this, that pushed me to put in the work. I didn't want to put a 0 there. So yeah, accountability certainly helps, right? So 2 recommendations, I would say that at least try it out for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks, then gauge whether it's really helping you or not, right? Don't decide today, because then there will be inertia also. And also don't keep it only to yourself. Try to involve others. You could create a WhatsApp group. You could make one accountability partner, jaise bhi, but make it a social thing and don't keep it personal. Chiranjeev.
Yeah, that's all.
Hi, yaar, I think I'm done also. So batao, questions, comments, prashna.
Yeah. So yeah, you can now ask whatever questions you have. I'll also give all of you the opportunity, sort of the permission to unmute, and then also launch a poll. So you can share your feedback about the session. So Anish, you want to stop sharing?
I want to.
Okay, so once again, participant window. Yeah. So anybody wants to ask question, you can unmute yourself, or if you want to
Chiranjeev,
ask.
your voice is feeble, bhai.
Hello,
करो आवाज को.
अभी आ रही है?
नहीं, आने की बात थोड़ी, आवाज फीबल है.
So Khair, so what I was saying was ki if you have questions, you can unmute yourself or you can ask in the chat window. And I've also launched a feedback poll, so you can share your experience about this session.
Oh, there was, I think that person's left who was planning to start preparing, Hana, who hadn't started yet. I don't remember his name.
I think he has just gone to start his preparation.
Or anyone else who's just started or just starting or thinking of starting. Anyone else in that boat?
I don't know how would you categorize 2 months.
In 2 months to chalo, ho gaya. And wo bhi 2 to 3 tha na tumhara to. Less than a month, I would say. I mean, for my question, I'm not saying ki bhai 2 months definition wise is not this or that, but for my question specifically.
I think Boyjanti is saying yes. I'm not sure what yes means.
Oh, acha.
Hi, yeah. I'm just starting out with my preparations. Yeah.
Yet to start or started already?
Yet to start. Truthfully, no, not yet started. Yet to start.
Truthfully only. Jhoot kyun bolu?
No.
Yet to start. Acha. So kya, what stage right now? You also tell me, are you also searching by how long should GMAT prep take?
Yes,
Things-
I've done all of that. I've been doing it for the last 1 month. Mहीना लगना चाहिए, उससे कम लगना चाहिए. And then I'm also trying to download frameworks for each day, each week. How much should it take?
Study plan and all that, huh?
Yes. All the planners and all, and then just getting confused and overwhelmed at the end of the day.
So 1 month, not actually prepared, but done all these ancillary things.
Yes, yes. All the ancillary and realizing कि काम डालना पड़ता है, शुरू तो करो.
Yeah. ये भी एक फैक्टर है ना. Preparing for preparation itself becomes a project.
Yes, yes, yes. Very valid. But it's a valid question. But the GMAT focused one is the one which is just going to be the lone exam that you can take after a while, right? If I'm
Yeah, after 31st of January, you can just take GMAT Focus. You cannot take the classic edition.
like then to GMAT focus ही लेना है फिर.
So, Bhajanti, you're a part of GMAT Intensive or what? I've seen your name.
Oh, no, I was a part of a webinar that you took
Achha, okay.
2 weeks back, and we also have a WhatsApp group. I think Dhruv was
Ah,
also there.
How to learn that one?
Yes, how to learn that one. Yes,
I just thought I've seen your name. Yeah.
Yeah, how do you pronounce your name?
Oh, it's Boy Jayanti. So वही भै जयंती का वो बंगाली कर दिया मम्मी ने, तो Boy Jayanti हो गया.
Or last name?
Sarkar.
Sarkar.
Yeah,
Achha, you spell it differently, no? From the...
that's the story. Yeah.
Chalo, theek hai. We'll not get into that story now. Or any other comments here, questions, anything else anyone would like to share?
I just had one question, right? Like I want to discuss it out loud. That since when I started my preparation, I didn't have the focus edition in my mind, and now that I've almost there, I would say 50% there, even if it is 50%. The idea of moving the deadline is a major mental barrier. Though I have that thought that if I have to, I will have to switch the pattern. That's it, which is not a big deal. Like I can switch the pattern as well. But that thought is creating this immense amount of mental pressure to be done with it by January. It's not also because that I'm trying to be harsh on myself. It's also because then I'll have to study a different part of it, or in a different way, or in a different topic. For example, I remember SC was something that I started with 5% accuracy. I just did not get it at all. For 20 days, I have literally done nothing. Like I would go through and give that amount of time to other subjects, but I worked extremely hard on it. So now, all of a sudden, the thought that if you can't get it done in January, then you just have to let go of all of that effort that you've put in. So I am having a lot of trouble weighing that. How do I go about it? Because to be honest, I don't have that barrier on me कि मुझे अगले साल ही apply करना है, उससे अगले साल ही जाना है, इसी college जाना है, इतना ही score चाहिए. I've gotten to a place where I'm comfortable with that and flexible with it. But it should be done properly. That is my agenda as well.
तो लेकिन अभी क्या लग रहा है कि कहीं ये मेहनत वेस्ट ना हो जाए मेरी.
हाँ,
सेंटेंस
मतलब फिर लग रहा है कि फिर से स्क्रैच से शुरू करना ना पड़ जाए.
नहीं, एक मिनट. यही तो पूरा जीमैट ही है ना अभी भी तो. फिर से स्क्रैच से क्यों शुरू करना पड़ेगा?
स्क्रैच से नहीं, बट लाइक आई वुड से कि एससी एंड ज्योमेट्री एंड जिन चीजों में अभी जो मेरे वीक स्पॉट्स हैं, they are actually getting removed in the next version, which should be a silver lining for me. But it doesn't feel like it. That is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like कि अगर इतना ही है तो might as well prepare properly for focus edition अभी से. Why am I putting in the effort in SC? तो मतलब it's two clash of thoughts, right? कि अभी effort डालो, जनवरी तक करो, versus go ahead. Being more lenient, not having enough expectations to yourselves.
By the way, तुम जनवरी तक भी फोकस एडिशन दे सकती हो.
करेक्ट.
ऐसा नहीं है कि फोकस जनवरी के बाद ही.
अवेयर.
मैं समझा नहीं. तुमने अभी वर्ड भी यूज किया weaknesses. Maybe I'm something, but you are calling sentence correction and geometry weaknesses. Is that correct? Yet,
yes,
because you've put in efforts, you don't
because I know that I'm putting in effort and I'm getting there, but I might need a little bit more time than January. That is what I am saying.
Chiranjeev, you were about to say something. मैं समझ रहा हूँ, but मैं पूरा नहीं समझा हूँ अभी मैंने.
I try.
नहीं. Maybe it's an issue on my end.
So I can also attempt. Essentially, the problem, I am not sure, so you can confirm. So you have already invested some effort. It's not, if so, let's say if right now you were starting, then you could have gone with GMAT Focus. But now that you have invested some effort into geometry and SE, so now you're a little bit attached to it. So you don't want to let go of it. So
Like
you
ideally, I wouldn't want to, correct. Like it just sounds very materialistic when I say that it's just my attachment that I can't let go of.
Yeah.
But it's also the effort that I've put in there, and I'm like, now that I've gotten better at it, now I finally understand it. It's a sense of achievement. So I want to use
So
those topics to actually do well as well, right?
So the simple thing is what options do you have? The options you have is simply that you just let go of it and just focus on focus edition. The other option you have is you don't, you continue with it, you give your best and take it by 31st of January. If it works out well, done. If it doesn't work
If
out
it
well,
doesn't, then though I don't have any option anyway. Hmm.
right? So these are the only two options here. Or the third option is you constantly keep thinking about it and waste your time.
Thank you.
I just want to reiterate on that one point about starting from scratch. It's not like you'll be starting from scratch, right? I don't know percentage wise, but a significant chunk of the exam remains the same.
Correct.
ना तो फिर anyway ये भी नहीं कह रहे सारी मेहनत waste हो जाएगी.
I have a question. So I remember CJ sir took the attempt for Focus Edition, and I wanted to know that how is data insights very different from IR, or it's just the extension of IR? It's the same set of questions, same pattern, or what is it like?
Yeah, same. Thoda
Same.
just an extension of that.
Okay.
So that's
Because
experience. अब इसमें क्या होता है कि so I keep hearing this all the time that verbal has become much tougher. This has happened. So last attempt when I took it in 2017, one of the reasons was a lot of people were saying on forums, and even some of the students were also saying, "Oh, it has become really tough." And then I went to take it, and वही तो है. So there are essentially what happens is on forums you don't get a representative sample. So let's say 10 people take the test, 8 people find it, yeah, it just जैसे official guide में मुश्किल थे वैसे यहाँ मुश्किल थे. They don't come on forums really, oh yeah, it was the same. But if there are 2 people who find it different for whatever reasons, they come and say, oh, everything was very different, And then you go on forums and find 20 people saying things are very different. And you're like, yeah, things are very different. But 80 people are not saying anything who are finding the same. That's the trouble. It is an extension of that only. Of course, a few things might be a little more difficult in some of the questions depending on the difficulty level of the questions, but it's not drastically different in any way.
Okay. And sir, I know that CR and RC are there. Do you see any difference in the difficulty level of those questions
No.
from your benchmark only?
तो I can only say from my benchmark. So मेरे benchmark के हिसाब से तो nothing has changed in terms of verbal, in terms of CR and RC difficulty levels. In terms of verbal, what has changed is SC is not there anymore. So in my case also, I used to save time on SC so that I could devote more time to CR and RC. Now that is not there. So the time per question has increased a little. I think it used to be around 1 minute 51 seconds per question. Now it is 1 minute 56 seconds per question. So there is a 5-second increase, but SC is not there now. So I think it is highly possible that a lot of Indians will face timing issues more severely in the focus edition in terms of verbal section. It's possible.
It's heavy on comprehension. Obviously.
CR or RC, those sections हैं. So मेरे case में by chance there were only, so in all the 4 mocks that I took, there were 4 RC passages and 9 to 10 CR questions. Somehow in the actual test, when I looked at the analytics, so this I've shared in the webinar, you can just go and see the analytics there in the webinar. So there were only 3 RC passages, so about 10 to 11 questions. 10 to 11 questions from RC and 12 to 13 questions from CR. So somehow in my actual exam, it was just 3 RCs and a lot of CR questions. As far as quant is concerned, it has become, in my perception, much easier. It rather in some of the mocks that I took, even in the actual exam, it felt like I was taking GRE. It has really come down in terms of difficulty. And first is, of course, data sufficiency is not there, geometry is not there. Even still, the overall difficulty has still come down. So I think people who face troubles in quant, they will have sort of easier time in the focus edition in terms of the quant section.
Plus, actually, Ria, there are new official guides that have come out, right, for focus edition, and there are mock tests also available. So तुम खुद भी try करके देख सकती हो, right? कि मुश्किल लग रहे हैं, नहीं लग रहे हैं, आसान लग रहे हैं कि नहीं लग रहे हैं.
Yes, sir. Once I actually see how much of my syllabus that I'm currently doing, I can finish by December, like how much of it I can complete properly by December end. And then I'll see if I should take current version or I should switch to focus, because I'll only be left with Jan and I don't want to put any pressure of mocks and all. So
So, chalo, should we call it a day then, in case there's nothing else? Good, yaar. Thank you all for spending your Sunday evening with us. Maza aaya. I was saying to Chiranjeev that I'm thinking of today's webinar more like a panel discussion than us presenting things, right? Having presentations and all that. तो थोड़ा Zoom का figure out करना पड़ेगा, right? चिरंजीव छोटे-छोटे डब्बे दिखते हैं, उतना भी मजा नहीं आता. I don't know if there are options to make डब्बे bigger or something.
We can change the view so that only the speaker is visible.
हाँ, मैं वो कभी भी नहीं करता हूँ, क्योंकि मेरी आदत है ऐसे करने की, फिर वो ना बार-बार चेंज होता रहता है वो.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously that's an idea. Yeah, fair. We can do that. ठीक है. Thank you very much. Hope you guys learned something. We will share that Google Sheet with you, and yeah, hopefully we get to meet more. We will probably be conducting more webinars in the future. So kahin na kahin, I'm sure our paths can and hopefully will cross. Wish you the best.
Thank you. Wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
so
guys.
much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Bye.